On today's Cup of Tea, show listeners brought to you by our very, very good friends, good partners at NAF. I am delighted to say I have a young lady who has just jumped double clear at her first 5-star. Helen Bates, how are you?
Hi, Nicole. I'm good, thank you.
First of all, let's set the scene. So, Cup of Tea show. The traditional question that I like to kick things off with is, what are you drinking? But you're actually sat with your dog on your knee recording this. Yes. So I feel like the dog needs to be introduced to the listeners too.
I am drinking coffee because I'm a little bit obsessed. And I've got my little mini Jack Russell Dora with me.
Dora?
She pretty much goes everywhere with me.
Is she particularly miniature? She's obviously a miniature Jack Russell. Is she very, very tiny?
I mean, she would be fairly small. Shorter legs than a normal Jack Russell, I suppose.
Because my dog, so I've got a working cocker, and he would love to come everywhere with me, but isn't quite as smuggleable. So if he comes, everybody knows about it, which limits it slightly. But anyway, listeners, now we've set the scene for you. I actually haven't got a drink because I came straight onto this recording having been running late from something else. And so I didn't have time to get a drink. So anyway, I am letting the side down significantly. But let's go. So Helen, first of all, first 5-star at Poe with Carpe Diem and a double clear. Looking back on it now, because there's a few weeks to reflect, you obviously spend so many years working to get up to 5-star level. Has it sunk in now? You're looking back on it?
I think probably still not fully, more so than the week itself. I think the week just felt like a bit of a fever dream. But yeah, it's definitely getting there. I'm still not sure I feel right saying that we're a 5-star combination just yet, but hopefully soon.
What was the goal going into Poe?
I think mainly just learn from the experience. Things like that. There's a lot to learn. I've never been to Poe. I've only ever watched it, so I think it was really interesting to actually see it in the flesh and then have to then ride around it as well. I think the main thing was just to go have a nice time, enjoy the experience. You know, it's a bridge to even get to that level in the first place. So the main aim was to enjoy it and do the best I can and hopefully not let Demon down.
We're going to talk about Demon in a bit more detail, I think. I want to know where his name comes from for a start, because we're setting the scene, I feel, for what he was like as a foal. Is that how he got his name or not?
Yeah, so I got him as a just-backed 4-year-old from the Brightwell sale at Addington.
Okay.
I actually tried him there and he tried to deck me twice. And I still thought this was a good idea to then try and buy him. And luckily he was quite naughty so I don't think that many people were so keen on him. I just had a gut feeling about him. And then we got him back. I was based at Mark Kyle's at the time, and he was quite hard work. And so every day when I came from riding him, originally his stable name was Diego, and every time I came back from riding him, the girls would be like, "Oh, how's the devil child?" or "How's the demon?" And it just kind of stuck.
Bless him. Has he mellowed in his age?
Yes, definitely. I don't think people would necessarily believe the antics he got up to as a young horse, but he still has that quirkiness in him, as he kind of showed a bit with the screen in the dressage at Poe, but the rest of the time he's a bit of a saint, really, so I can't complain.
Sometimes the best ones are the ones that are a little bit trickier, because they just kind of have that edge that sets them apart from everybody else. What's he like as a person? Is he a demon on the ground, or is he quite...
No, he's really sweet. He's quite aloof. He would sort of have his head over the stable door, but if you went to pet him, especially if he didn't know you, he would immediately shrink away. He wouldn't be cuddly or particularly affectionate, but I do feel like we know each other really well now, so it's quite nice. He kind of acts like a bit of a stallion in the sense he feels the need to protect everyone all the time. He's always the boss in the field, but in the kindest way possible. He would never actually hurt a fly.
It must be unbelievably satisfying to produce a horse yourself all the way up the levels to 5-star. At any point in the kind of, obviously he was quite tricky in the early days, but was there a point that you thought, actually, do you know what, this could be the horse that makes that 5-star dream come true?
I think you always dare to believe a little bit. It takes so much to get level, and I think I've always been fairly aware of the amount of time, work, and then essentially luck it takes to get there. But I think he just kept answering every single question. As a 7-year-old, when he jumped around his first intermediate, he made it feel so easy. And that sort of was replicated the whole way through when, as soon as we moved up a level, it just never felt like a challenge. So it just got more and more exciting each time we stepped up a level and he didn't find it too difficult.
He's had some really good top 20 finishes at a 4-star long format before stepping up to Po. So let's talk Po. Let's relive that week. First of all, the dressage. You said that actually the screen had its little influence in the first phase for you. Talk us through the first test.
Well, actually, to be fair, we nearly lost him at the trot up with the screen because you actually have to wait in the arena before you trotted up on the strip. And we nearly lost him a couple of times there. Luckily, my wonderful groom, Lydia Swan, and Hollywood had actually also stepped in and grabbed the other side of him before we lost him. So that was a great start to the week. He would be quite shy. He's actually incredibly talented on the flat, but you wouldn't necessarily know it because he really does shrink a little bit in the dressage. It's the phase that he just finds a bit more uncomfortable mentally. He's not that confident in himself. So that then combined with and the cameraman who was stood right by the arena, he's just not very trusting with things like that. It would probably take him about a month to chill out about something like that. So we did the best we could, and he actually tried really, really hard because probably a few years ago he would have run halfway across the arena. So he did actually try.
I guess going from the trot up, because the trot up was actually Thursday morning, wasn't it? So did you have a Friday dressage or a Thursday dressage?
I had a Friday dressage. It was quite surprising how the whole thing was just they were so relaxed about everything. And we were all just like, when can we walk the course? Like, is it going to be open soon? Like, I want to walk it loads. So everything was very relaxed sort of the whole week, which was probably good, really.
Because it quite often the international events that are run on a surface, you're allowed to actually work in the arena as part of the arena familiarisation. Whereas if you go to Badminton or Burghley, because it's on grass, you just kind of have to walk around in a loose rain. Yeah. Did that help him, do you think?
Yeah, definitely. A little bit we've aimed him for places that have a little bit because of that, because the more he can get comfortable in his surroundings, the more likely it is that he'll do a better test. So that definitely helped. We were allowed on the Wednesday to work them, could trot and canter outside the arena and we could walk around inside the arena. And then on the Thursday arena familiarisation, we were only allowed to walk, which, I mean, to be fair, if I'd have been on a loose rain, I probably would have been bolting halfway across the arena. So it wasn't quite loose, but yeah, just trying to familiarise him with all of the scary things.
It was more relaxed than it would have been otherwise. So away from the dressage, cross country, I feel like all of the kind of conversation around the Po cross country was that it was pretty intense and it was a tough enough track. What was your first impression of it?
Yeah, definitely. I think intense is probably the right word. So it's so interesting to watch it on a TV for years and then actually go and be there. It felt quite different. It felt a little bit claustrophobic, to be honest, getting there. But yeah, it just felt like there was a lot to do. And everyone says Po is flat, but the amount of artificial mounds there, I don't think you could even suggest it was flat. It's like every fence felt like it was either up or down a mound or on a curving line. So there was definitely a lot to think about and a lot of sort of on preparation for each fence, I would say.
Who would you go to for advice in those kind of situations?
So I have help from Kevin McNabb normally, who actually himself has done Po a lot of times, but I managed to pick the 1 year that he wasn't here.
It's always the way.
Yeah. So I had spoken to him a bit beforehand. We actually weren't sure if Po would be the right track for Demon because he can be such a strong horse. So I wasn't sure about the turning lines, but the way it worked out, he really, really wants to do the job and he wants to jump between the flags. So and the risk paid off. So it was fine. But I'd sort of spoken to him a bit about who to ask for help whilst I was there, and he suggested Piggy. So Piggy was so kind to let me join a course walk with her, and I could just talk through my plans and go from there.
In terms of cross country day itself, safe to say, pretty tough day. at the office. There was plenty of drama. There were lots of faults. It ended up being a sub 40% cross country clear rate, which is tough enough. 5-star globally, generally speaking, would be above the 50%. So you're looking at around 52, 54% 5-star. So that's 1 in 2 jumping clear. Whereas Poe was definitely tough, and it worked out tough on paper as well. You were later on the Saturday, in the sort of the second half of the draw. So did you watch anything in the morning? Were you aware of kind of how much was going on out there, or do you stay in a bubble?
No, I walked the course again because they have the race horses at Poe. They hadn't actually finally strung the course until I think it was about 10:30. So I did my final walk then, which was obviously quite early to the start. So then I watched a couple go down the drop and sort of waiting for someone to come through that combination at the end, which took a bit of a while. I actually got told to get off the course by one of the police people on their horses because I think he just thought I was a spectator. But yeah, it was. I walked a couple of lines then, and then I actually spent a bit of the morning watching the live stream whilst on the phone to Kevin, so we could just sort of like finalise plans and change them if needed. I think the only thing I really changed was the plan for the water in the race course. Ultimately, we just decided that the aim was to jump a clear round, and whilst I've actually never taken a long route with Diego or Demon, but I just thought that it was safer, and I just wanted to make sure that he got home safe and that he kept with me the whole time. So I'd love to have a go and try it on the direct route next time, but yeah, that was the only thing really that we changed after that.
It was interesting, actually. We had Kylie Roddy on the show a few weeks ago, and kind of looking back on her Poe, and she did the same. She changed her mind, having kind of seen a couple go early on, and went the longer route at that water. And it felt like the alternative was a little bit more obvious in front of them as they jumped in. And actually, at that stage, I think you certainly weren't the only one that felt that kind of came up a little bit more sensibly for them. But post cross country, what's the feeling like? You've been round a 5-star, you have jumped clear on a horse that you have produced yourself all the way up the levels, and you've got that elusive 0 box next to the jumping penalties, and you're home safely. Did you manage to, 1, enjoy going round, and 2, what was the feeling like coming through those finish flags?
Yeah, no, I definitely did sort of enjoy it. Every question that came up and that sort of I rode and was, comparing it with how I'd walked it. I was just thrilled with how he reacted to everything. Again, I was sort of surprised with how confident he felt. I probably shouldn't have been surprised, but he felt so good. He gave me an amazing ride, and bless him. The one combination I was the most worried about was the one, I think it was 28 ABC, very close to the end, which I know caught a few people out. But that was always, even before I went, I had a feeling that would be the one that we'd find the toughest, just because you couldn't really see your B until you'd taken off from A. So you had to be pretty certain about where you were taking off. And I actually ended up not the line I wanted to be after A, and but very, like, I was already committed to my 3 strides rather than adding in the 4th stride. And bless him, Diego absolutely saved my bacon and just locked completely on and did all the work for me. So after I did that, I sort of took a big breath and thought, oh my God, because there was definitely a second where I thought we were going to have a 20, and I was already about to start kicking myself. But bless him, he was truly incredible through there. And then Braden Lissington's actually got an awesome video of me coming over the last fence, just going, so excited that we'd actually managed to do it. So I think, just pure adrenaline as I came through. And Piggy was actually just after me. So she gave me a big hug and said, well done, girl, and you've done it, and that's amazing. And it's such a great atmosphere and such a great feeling, even just being in that washdown area with some of the best riders in the world. It's pretty surreal. So I was just thrilled that he'd felt good pulling up as well. And just thrilled for the whole experience, really.
Did that kind of moment in the washdown area feel very different, like that step above to those other washdown areas that you've been in, the kind of the difference in 5-star level?
Yeah, definitely. When you're at your first one, you're bound to feel like a little bit I guess it's almost imposter syndrome, especially for someone like me who's had done it, produced them up the levels myself, and my parents aren't horsey per se. They've been dragged into it through me, but it's not like I've grown up ever experiencing situations like that. And obviously, to explain eventing to people, you always explain that, 5-star is the top of the sport. So to then actually feel like I was there and present and had jumped to clear round on such a tough day, it was really, really meant a lot. So it was, very, very exciting.
I'm always fascinated by everybody's kind of journey into the sport, and everybody has different stories to tell and kind of their pathway and their road to where they are now. You say your parents weren't particularly horsey. So how did young Helen become obsessed by horses?
I actually have no idea. I just always wanted to ride, and I always was sort of like, I can remember drawing pictures of horses when I was little. And I think it was for my 8th birthday, my parents bought me a riding lesson at a riding school. And never looked back really. I think I was at the riding school for about 4 years. And then the first parents actually bought for me was actually a yearling, which I think shows the level of experience you're working with there. So I had a lone pony and things as well, but off the riding school. But that was where it all started really. So it was always a case of, it was always going to be that I was going to have to reduce them a little bit on the way up. So I guess I started very young.
What happened with the yearling?
We backed him at 4, and he was only at the time, and I think he only ended up being about 13.2, 13.3. So we ended up selling him a few years later. He ended up actually being quite sharp as well, so even selling him was quite difficult. But he's doing show jumping now and loving it. So,
at what point did actually this kind of pony mad girl, decide that horses were a career? And what did your parents think of that?
I'm really lucky. Like, my parents have always been very supportive. They've tried their best to help support me where they can. I think I remember one time them selling a car to help me buy a lovely 4-year-old at one point. But I think the main turning point, I suppose, would have been I was in 6th form and doing my first year of A-levels, and I'd sort of been looking at opportunities to go and work for riders and, maybe take like a year out or something and work for a rider. And then I saw the Nicole were looking for people, and so I went up for a trial day, and then I came back and we spoke to my head of 6th form, and he said, if you know what you want to do in life, you're doing better than half of the people here, so go and do it. And so I thought, guess that's my time. Off I go. And then I ended up staying there 6 years. So, yeah.
Amazing. So we'll come back to Poe in a second. I just want to stay here for a moment. So you are now 27, is that right? So you were with Mark and Tanya Kyle for 6 years. So that would have taken you to about 24? So how long have you had your own yard, and how big was that jump?
Yeah, so I was 17 when I moved up there, and then that was up in Leicestershire. And then I was doing a bit of dressage training with Amy Woodhead, who then introduced me to Holly, and that's how I ended up back in Cirencester, or back this way. So I was probably running like a small string of horses at Mark and Tanya's after about a couple of years, I'd say, like 3 or 4 years maybe. So whatever that is.
Okay. And then what does the team at home look like for you now? How many horses have you got in, and how's the setup there?
We rent a really nice yard on an estate between Cirencester and Cheltenham. It's just a small string. I've got my 3 event horses, which I own some, and then I own a couple, and then my parents own Demon. And then I've got a couple of jumping horses that will be hopefully sold to help buy some more young horses. So it's just basically a bit of a turning wheel of buying 3-year-olds, producing them up the levels a bit, and then selling them on to help fund some of the older horses, really. Try and keep a couple on the way if we can.
It's that juggle of business, isn't it? And the kind of the competitive desire and dreams and ambitions, but actually the reality of running a business and making a sustainable business as well for the future. I'm going back to Poe because I totally deviated off topic. We got from the cross-country collecting ring to the yard in Cirencester very quickly.
Yeah.
Final day. He is, I have to say, a pretty exceptional jumper. From 17 internationals, he has never had a rail. So that obviously gives you
on me.
no, but that I was going to say that gives you great confidence. There's obviously no other horse that you'd prefer to be sat on the final day, but also there is a bit of pressure because you kind of feel like you should be able to jump a clear round, but anybody can have a rail. So what was the feeling like going in, kind of knowing that a double clear was in touching distance, or did you not dare to dream that far ahead?
I mean, coming into it, I knew he was capable, but it takes a lot of things to go right and a lot of luck on your side, I think, at the end of the day. And luck was definitely on my side with that last combination on the cross country. So I knew coming in, nothing I'd rather be sat on. I'm pretty sure there'd be a lot of people that would like to be sat on Diego on that last day. And the atmosphere actually ends up lifting him in that environment. So that was good as well. Walked the course and it's honestly felt like one of the biggest courses I've ever walked. And he's jumped a few 130s and things and some fairly decent 130s, but this, whether it was because of the situation we were in, it definitely felt absolutely humongous and square and lots of funny coloured poles and things that they might not have seen before. And it was pretty much square from first jump, which was also right next to the crowd. So I could tell they wanted the show jumping to be a bit of a challenge, but I just had to go in there and sort of pretend I was just at Rectory Farm down the road and ride him like I normally would.
What about the kind of the journey home and that reflection on a double clear? You obviously have dreams of going to your first 5-star and you wanted to enjoy the experience as well. Safe to say, I'm pretty sure you and the team that went with you did enjoy the week. Is that fair, first of all?
Yeah, no, definitely.
Coming home, do you kind of get that opportunity to take a breath and go, do you know what, that was amazing? Or is that part of you already kind of thinking of the next one?
I'd say probably a bit of both. Like, it's definitely a nice feeling when you're driving. Well, I mean, I wasn't actually driving, but when you're traveling that far to get home again, it's definitely a relief and, you know, a thrill to be able to relax in that you've had such a successful week. But it was as soon as we got back. I mean, I finished the yard that afternoon and then was banging post back into the field the next day. So slight reality check when you get back. But it's still very cool and very grateful to be able to say that our week went so well, really.
Is the dream for next year another one? And dare I say, is it pretty local to where you're based?
Maybe, yeah.
Rhymes with Schmadminton.
Yeah, a small gymkhana in Ketbury. That plan A is a bonus. He actually picked up an injury as an 8-year-old and had a couple of years off, and we never really knew what he would do again in terms of the levels or whether he'd ever even do a long format again. But, you know, we've had a wonderful vet in Tom Campbell who's helped support him the whole way. So everything's a bonus, essentially. I mean, I would absolutely love to come out the start box and take on a course like badminton, especially with the Demon. I just feel like we're so in sync and he's like my best friend. So something like that would definitely be a dream. Badminton for me has always been the dream since I was little. So yeah, that would certainly be very, very surreal and very exciting to be there. But, you know, there's a lot that's got to go right before then. So we'll see.
There is, but you've got a dream. You've got a dream as well. Dreams are a good thing, and watch this space over the winter. Lots to look forward to. The other horses on your yard, we love to give our listeners one to follow. Is there another one in your string that they can watch along with in 2024?
Yes, I've got a couple of nice ones coming through, but the one that's probably surprised me in a way the most would be Corson Z. He'll actually be 10 next year, so not that young. But we've just taken everything really slow with him. He's such a sweetheart, but he really, really tries. And he did his first 4-star, first advanced, best anything of that level at Blenheim, which was definitely throwing him in the deep end. And he really stepped up to the plate. So I'd love to see what he can take on next year. We'll keep it fairly patient, but I think he's one that's worth waiting for.
There you go, listeners. Cast Corson Z, one to follow next year. Helen, thank you so much. It has been an absolute pleasure to have you on the show and hear more about your story. And I'm sure our listeners will be looking forward to following you in 2024.
No, thank you very much. It's been a pleasure.
Dora has been beautifully behaved as well, hasn't she? Very quiet.
I know, she's been sleeping. Very impressed.
I wish I was a dog. Don't you think? It would be great. Yeah. Naps encouraged. Anyway, Helen, thank you. Best of luck.
All the time.
Exactly. And then somebody would just stroke her head and just kind of say, good girl. Like, off you go. Look, Helen, thank you so much. Best of luck for the winter and fingers crossed. Fingers crossed for Schmadminton in May.
Thank you very much. Yes.
Listeners, I hope you enjoyed having a little cup of tea or coffee with myself and Helen. We'll be back with lots more on the show coming very soon. We have got an absolutely action-packed December. When this show comes out, Equirating's Horse of the Year will be in full swing and there will be all manner of mighty battles unfolding. So do go and have your say on who should be crowned Equirating's Horse of the Year 2023. But for now, that is all we've got time for. Massive thank you to Helen and a massive thank you to Naf and for you guys for tuning in.